Hey everybody, welcome back to another edition of Rapid Recap here at Inside Nebraska. Before we get going, I encourage you guys to like this video, subscribe to the Inside Nebraska YouTube channel, get all these videos dropped directly into your feed. It is Tuesday, September 17th, and with me as always is Tim Verghese. I'm Zack Carpenter. Tim, what do we think? About 2 days, a little more than 48 hours now. There's 72 hours. Math wizards again. 72 hours away from a top 25 showdown against Illinois. I keep using that word showdown. And it is surprising it's a top 25 matchup like we talked about before, but I think we all knew that this was going to be a tough one going against an Illinois team that is always, when Brett Bielema's coaching, it's going to be that cliche knockdown, drag it out fight. Nebraska compares it to a boxing match. I think they did the same thing last year. But just right off the top rope, Jamari Butler is going to be returning for this game. He was out for the Northern Iowa game. Makai Berry going to get a full game from him. He's suspended for the first half against Northern Iowa, and we saw some of the issues of having those two guys specifically out against UNI. What are your thoughts on just the impact that they can have having both of those guys back?
Yeah, I think Jamari doesn't get talked about on the D-line as much as Ty and Nash do, but, Ty himself mentioned it today, just like that unnatural juice that he brings, and it's not just in the sense of, okay, this guy's just like unbelievably better than the rest of the line or anything. It's just the way he plays the game of football. He plays 100 miles an hour. He's constantly trying to make an impact. He's added that weight, so he's like an every down guy now for them. And just not having him out there, you could see that impact miss.
Real quick, actually, because I just thought of it. Preseason, when they had the Nebraska Media Day, right after Big Ten Media Days, and Jamari was one of the players made available. And I was asking him about the Illinois game last year because it was brought up. And Illinois game, obviously, not just to run through real quick, was sort of the turning point in the season last year. They had the 96 play practice. I think Jamari was the first one, I think, to reveal, like, in public forum, like it was 96 plays of live practice right after the Michigan game. He said that just talking with him, I asked him more about that. He's like, that was the hardest week of my life, man. Like, I asked why. He's like, just laughing, like, man, there's so many things, like it. So he didn't like dive into specifics. I think it was hard on a lot of people, but it was Jamari who, to a man, people have credited as going into, I think it was after the Michigan game or going into the practice the next day, or I think it was right before the practice the next day. He challenged everyone to bring the juice. Like, if you don't want to be here, then don't be here. Like, leave. You don't have to go through this. Like, you show us who wants to be here. That's what this is going to be. And then he said no one left. So I think that's sort of what you missed too with that leadership aspect of it. But you're going to talk about
for
Makai.
sure. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing with Jamari. I think is off the field. We talk to Nash and Ty so much, and we talk to other Tommy Hill and all these other leaders on the defense. But within that locker room and on the field, you can see Jamari just got a natural presence to him, and guys kind of rally around him. So that presence was missed on Saturday. And with Makai Bear, last week or 2 weeks ago, Ty Robinson talked about him missing the first half of that Colorado game last year, and how when he came back from that, he felt like he was trying to get into his groove while the rest of the defense was already in their groove, and it messed him up. For Makai, missing that first half this last week, it felt like that as well for him, like trying to find that groove in the second half. Couldn't really find it because the rest of the defense had already played like 40, 50 snaps at that point in that first half. So in this game,
coming on that first drive
for sure, so this game he'll have that he'll have him for that full game. He'll have that opportunity to kind of get in rhythm with the rest of the defense. So I'm expecting a better defensive performance on Saturday, or on Friday night, I guess.
I keep forgetting
as well. But expecting a better defensive performance on Friday night, and I just in general, I think, even though it's a better opponent, I just think you're going to see more fight from this defense. And
then flipping to the other side, the offense, that was the key note to hit on, because it was sort of a ho-hum, like not a lot, this sounds dumb to say, but not a non-energetic press conference, I guess you would say. The last two, Tony White's come in there, and like you could feel actually I think all three until today, like you feel the energy and the confidence oozing off him. Today it was more laid back, a little more reserved. Maybe that's what started it off on a not as energetic as it feels and enthusiastic. But on the offensive side, I thought that the thing that stood out to me the most was when Marcus Satterfield was asked about Illinois' defense and the problems they face, and then Dylan Raiola was asked the same thing, and they both talked about the way that Illinois' defense disguises coverages, changes things at the line, and that this is going to be a game where. I think it was Satterfield who said this is going to be a game where Dylan has to make the reads after the snap and not pre-snap. We know how good he is by now 3 games of showing it at the college football level how good he is at changing those plays, reading defenses. We know the film work. Like, I mean, I don't know if many people know how tirelessly that guy works in the film room, but there's going to be tells that the Illinois defense has. But if you're switching it up and disguising it at the line as much as they say, as much as
and it's not just disguising coverage shells. They'll disguise. They'll line up in a man coverage and then drop into zone, which always throws quarterbacks off, and vice versa. So they fully just give you looks pre-snap that they're not going to even give you after the snap. So just again, big test for him.
The pass coverage switch, like switching from man to zone or vice versa. That's what I was getting at. So thank you for filling in that gap, because it's going to be Dylan Raiola's toughest challenge so far. It's going to be the best defense he faces so far by far, and it's the most intriguing part for me is seeing how his instincts will take over in those situations of, okay, I thought I had this look, now I have this other look. I mean, I don't know if you have any extra takeaways on that specifically, or just like the matchup against that defense in general.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, that defense is going to give you some challenges too up front. I think that interior of the line isn't as good as it was a couple years ago. They had Jajon Newton and a couple of guys on the interior of that line, but now their strength is their edge rushers. They're a couple deep there too, just like Nebraska is, a couple deep off the edge. So that's going to be an interesting test as well for Dylan. He's been able to move the pocket a good bit, move around in the pocket a good bit, but seeing what he looks like with consistent pressure or specifically off the edge, what that looks like for him, I'm curious to see how he holds up. And again, for him too, he's going to have to play all 4 quarters, we're assuming. Going to have to play all 4 quarters, see through a game, have to lead drives into the second half that, Nebraska's leaning on him to score, where like the last 3 games or so, feels like in that second half, the offense is just perfectly fine, just running down that clock and running the ball and kind of holding on to the football rather than actually trying to attack and score. Seeing how he reacts to that and how he manages the offense in a full 4-quarter scenario.
That is interesting, because as you're saying that, it's like just kind of dawns on you like, oh yeah, he hasn't had to play. Did he play every series against Colorado, or did he get taken out?
He got taken out by the end of that
but
too.
At least one, at least the final, if not the last 2 series. But it's like, you keep forgetting that. Like, yeah, he hasn't had to play a full game. Like I don't have any,
or at least throw the ball in a full
Yeah.
game. Like he's. I think Colorado, he did end up playing the full that all 4 quarters, but by that 4th quarter, it's just you're just running it down their throats and just trying to
bleed out the clock, right?
Yeah.
Not make mistakes, play, and then then they had like a billion penalties. Half of them, I guess, weren't actually penalties in that game. Anyway, I'm about to go down a road. I guess one last thought is 400th consecutive sellout at Nebraska, and they have 3. So they have 1 more. That's going to be Friday night. So it's going to be a show. 3 straight night games. And last week, I think it was a sleepy atmosphere, and it's like, yeah, if it's like you went out and got hammered against Colorado, and then the next day you're hungover. That's how you sort of the comparison, because it's like, okay, night game, sure, against Northern Iowa, but it's an FCS opponent. We just put all of our emotion into that. As a fan, spent all of that money, and we're that fired up for Colorado. It's like, okay, and with the team too, it's like, okay, just get through it. And that's what it kind of felt like. I'm sure they weren't approaching the game like that, but they're still humans, so it's like human nature probably takes over of like, there's a little bit of that. Now you got to get back up, and because it's the Big Ten opener, because Illinois is 3-0, because they're also ranked, because they know that's going to be a physical battle, I think we see that energy and that juice come back on Friday night. So I'm
curious to see how this fan base shows up for a Friday night game. Just because of everything that's going on. Obviously, all the Lincoln area high schools have moved their games around just to in accordance, I guess. And and I've seen some talk on there about kind of blaming Nebraska for this. It wasn't Nebraska's choice. This is the conference decision. Nebraska obviously would not like to play on Friday nights. The rule himself has said Friday nights are for high school football. They're not trying to take away from high school ball at all. They don't like the fact that they have to play on a Friday night. It's a short week for them. But it is the conference made the decision. They have to do it, and they're going to show up.
Money on Friday night game. But hey, you get another spotlight game, which is pretty unique. So now it's been 3 in a row that you get a primetime game. It's like, okay, that's gonna. It's going to do something for recruiting. I don't know if you have any recruiting nuggets, tidbits,
Yeah, I mean,
tidbits to go.
just because it's a Friday game, it's not going to be a super huge list, but they're going to get some guys in. I think the big notable name is 2026 four-star linebacker Jordan Campbell, who's committed to Miami. He's making the trip because he's on a bye week, or plays a Thursday game. But either way, the schedule worked out. He can make the trip, so he's planning to be in town. Could see a couple more, but we're still putting that list together just because people are working through their schedules with school on Friday and the scheduling and everything. So we'll see how it goes, but expecting a decent list at least.
A four-star committed to Miami coming to visit Nebraska, huh? Wonder where
Out
I
of
heard
Miami.
that before. Miami four-star coming to town and interested in Nebraska. Miami commit?
Commit.
Okay, then it's trending in the right direction,
Yeah.
hopefully. Vincent Shavers, I think he wonder what role we get out of him on Saturday, if anything at all. So we're going to quit rambling. I'm going to quit rambling here at Inside Nebraska. Again, encourage you guys to like this video, subscribe to the Inside Nebraska YouTube channel, get all of the videos dropped directly into your feed. We got Black Shirt Breakdown with Steve and former Husker Jay Foreman. We got the Nebraska Football Show coming out on Wednesday with Tim and Steve. And Recruiting Blitz dropped today on Tuesday. And is that it? And then we have bold predictions on Thursday. Yeah, we got a lot of shows. So again, also encourage you guys to go to InsideNebraska.com, see all of our written coverage there. So for Tim Verghese, I'm Zack Carpenter. We'll catch you guys again next time.